Okay, hi everybody, especially John in Australia, who is still awake somehow. It is
Oh my
very,
god!
yeah. We're going to discuss part of a lot of Arcanum Unbounded.
Yay.
That's what we're going to do today. I put in the thumbnail the main things we're probably going to discuss. But if you haven't read Arcanum Unbounded, it goes to all the planets. And at the time when it was published, which I think was before Oathbringer. I know that much. I just can't remember what year it was. 2016. That's when this was published. So it's all the short stories and novellas that were out in 2016 were kind of put in here. And I'm sure in like 6 to 10 years, we'll have another one that has whatever else has come out since then. So I don't know. This is Roger's read-along. I'm just hosting this. So do we want to go through them like story by story, whole collection first, thoughts, and then into the stories? How are we feeling?
We can do a whole collection and then into the stories.
Okay, so starting this way, Roger, explain first time, second time, how did you feel, spoiler free, on this reading experience? And I guess for context, we did not reread Mistborn's Secret History because we read that for a Mistborn Era 2 read along not too long ago. I mean, some people might have, but we didn't as a group do that. Like, I don't think we're discussing that here. And then because we're going to be reading Stormlight soon, we did not have to read Edge Dancer because that'll be read soonish. So I think that's all the context needed. Take it away.
This is my second time reading the Arcanum Unbounded, and I think I had more fun with it the first time because it was a little bit more just like, ooh, wow, these planets are really cool, because it was kind of in my beginning Sanderson journey. And this time it was fun in a different way because it was a lot more like trying to piece bits together from like Sunlit Man and like other things that we've seen in like Lost Metal, and trying to like pick apart little details from there. So it was like a different reading experience than just kind of being wowed by the cool planets.
Yeah. I will say one thing you'll find in the Arcanum Unbounded that you won't find, because originally you could purchase these stories, I think you still can separately, but there is an introduction to each planet that you will only find in the Arcanum Unbounded that I find kind of cool. Anyways, Stephanie, your turn.
This was my first time reading this. I did not reread Secret History. I would have if I'd given myself more time. I really like the intro to the planets in each one, or systems, excuse me. Not my favorite Sanderson, but we did get some cool info, and I'm horrible at connecting all the Easter eggs and threads, so I just went with it for fun, and it was a good time.
How dare you read for fun? Reading for fun. Stephanie.
No, I didn't feel like getting out my board with the string and like, I didn't give myself.
But you're a mystery girly. Isn't that like your bread and butter?
Some mystery people just let the mystery waft over them.
Yes, I'm just there for the ride. But I did. I have not read White Sand. So
I also did not read the White Sand in this. Sorry, we're also not discussing White Sand because I'm not consuming White Sand until we get our official new version, whenever that.
I was just gonna say I had to look up something because I had not read that. But other than that, I did see some stuff I recognized, so that was pretty cool.
All right, and Jesse, what about you? What's your background with this collection?
So this is my first time reading the entire thing. Like, I've picked it apart and like I've read a couple things here and there, but this was my first time reading most of them. And I had a good time. I think a lot of it is because I've read everything else Cosmere. So like I was able to be like, ooh, I know that. Because like I'm also not the best at picking out the Easter eggs right away unless they are like in your face, like, hey, this is character name. Right. And then like I'm not good at it, but I really enjoyed it. I think Emperor's Soul might have been my favorite.
It's good. So I think this is my first. I don't think I've ever actually read Arcanum Unbounded cover to cover all the way through. I've read everything in it at least 2 or 3 times because I first read a few of the short stories that we'll talk about when they were published as separate short stories. Like I read them then. I've read Emperor's Soul as a novella on its own. I read Secret History as a novella on its own. I think when I first, I got this for Christmas because his books come out around Christmas. I read Edge Dancer and I read the intro to all the places. And I kind of purposely didn't read the deleted scenes because I think this is a very unbalanced collection. It has some of my highest highs and then also some of my I did not care. I know why you put that in here because this is like an all-inclusive, everything you've ever written in the Cosmere, but like there are so many things that I was just like, I don't need the 11th metal story. I don't need the Pits of Jack story. Like, I don't need a lot of those things. Like, they're okay. But at the same time, like, yeah, Emperor's Soul is one of my favorite things. I really like the 2 short stories that are on different planets. And like, I guess now we have 2 Cosmere stories that link the magic system of the Theonites. But like before that, the first time I was on that planet was here and I really liked it. So yeah, I mean, this was a pleasant surprise because I was like dragging my feet because I was scared of it. I was like, I don't know. Because again, I don't think this is, I read a lot of short story collections and anthologies, and having now read a lot more of them since I've read this is a truly very unbalanced work that I would only ever be like, you're a Cosmere fan and you really want to know everything, go ahead. But even then, I think there are just some bits that I'm just like, you don't need it. Like, there are some things you just don't need. They're not important. Like, the hope of Elantris, I'm an Elantris girl. Like, that's not necessary. So, and also, if you have any thoughts in the comments, feel free to share them. I think we're going to continue probably spoiler free for a little bit for each story, but then we can go spoilers into the stories themselves, I guess. And I'll just open the book. I think we start on Cell, right? I never can remember the planet.
Can't remember either.
Yeah, the Cell-ish system. And the first one in that is the Emperor's Soul, which I recently did my Cosmere ranking video, and I was shocked at how high that went on my list. But apparently I really like that. Anyways, but Roger, you let us know your spoiler-free thoughts on it.
So I think it's good, but I'm always, I think maybe it's just because I'm not a novella person. Like, it's not the right length for me to feel fully invested. Or for Sanderson, I like all the details that we get in how the magic works and what's going on. And in a novella, he can't do that. So I think especially in light of stuff that happens in The Lost Metal, where some of the magic from Emperor's Soul plays a part, I was hoping that I would get the information that I thought I remembered from it, but it wasn't like as in depth. I don't know. It was just like a cool thought experiment of like trying to do what she was doing, but I don't love it.
All right, Stephanie.
I really enjoyed it. I did not read it around the time we read Lost Metal, so it was my first time reading it. And I like short stories and novellas, so it worked for me. Yeah, I thought it was really good, and I read it in one sitting. I was fully invested in finding out what happened. Yes,
invested.
I didn't even notice.
Every time. Every time.
Well, Jesse, segue. How were you invested in?
I was invested. I think I lean more towards Roger, though, with my thoughts on short stories. Like, I like more. And I think that's what it kind of gave me. Like, it was probably my favorite one of the ones that we read. I had a great time with it. I loved the magic.
Oh, your microphone muted. You know how you said your headset's been doing fun stuff? So everyone be patient with Jesse's tech because it's being fun. As we all know, tech can be.
Yes.
All right. No, you're not here.
Now.
Yes.
I'm buying a new mic, literally on Amazon right now. It'll be here tomorrow. I'm so frustrated. This is going back. No, I really enjoyed it, especially because I read it like way after I read Lost Metal. Like, I read Lost Metal as soon as it came out, so I didn't have a concept of like this magic system when I read Lost Metal, and I thought it was really cool. And getting more of that was really fun. But I agree, I kind of wanted more. Because I'm not a novella person either. But by the end of it, like I was super into it. I'm like, okay, and?
Well, I also just don't think that Sanderson crafts a novella or a short story in as impactful a way, because they can hit. Because I remember when Angela got me to read the titular Paper Menagerie, that thing punches you in the feels so fast.
Well, I mean, that's also different though. So here's where I become like a weird person where it's like, I don't like novellas. I'm not a novella person. I love short stories and novelettes, which are much shorter. And the skill it takes to do each of those 3 things is so different. And I actually, for me, there are like 4 novellas that I like, and this is one of them. And so I think Emperor's Soul is Brandon Sanderson's best novella. Considering his other novellas are like stupid long, like they're longer than Adrian Tchaikovsky novellas, which are also stupid long. Because like Edge Dancer and Dawn Shard are like borderline, like nettle and bone length. Like, like I don't even know if we're still in novella territory there. So like for me, I love this as a novella because I think what he wants to explore is explored really well, and I'm in on it. Like, I guess the thought experiment of you have this person. I mean, I also love a con artist that's been caught and has to do a task. Like Catch Me If You Can is like one of my favorite movies. And so like already the conceit, this person who has this has to like do an impossible task and they have a countdown time. I'm here for it. And I was telling you guys in the voice chat, my first time reading this, when we first got Emperor's Soul, I think was 2012-ish. So that's before we have Words of Radiance, okay? So as a Cosmere fan back in the OG times, we don't have Words of Radiance yet, which is the first time we start to get cognitive realm exploration. And so reading Emperor's Soul for the first time, I was like, we're finally learning about investiture. We've talked about it, and we're finally looking at it and seeing how it does stuff. So I was geeking out my first time reading it. This time, I'm not as geeking out because I don't think it actually gives you a lot new. Nowadays, if you've read a lot of the Cosmere, you've actually learned more than Emperor's Soul gives you. And actually, I completely missed in the Lost Metal read that I did that this character and magic system was in it. I was like, I feel like I should know this, but like, whatever. Like, everyone else is like, oh, you need to read Emperor's Soul. And I'm like, well, I have, and I've read it twice, and it didn't matter to me in reading the Lost Metal. So I don't know how essential it was. But my second time reading it, I was just really in on this character, and it actually highlighted to me how much I didn't like Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, because the Nightmare Painter had a character who was struggling with his art and recreation and originality and like copying things. And that character fell so flat for me. And here I was so in on the conversation of originality versus creativity and like the fuzzy lines of all of that. And I felt like this was truly gave me more than that 400-page story of Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. So for some reason, this just really, it landed for me. I liked the complex idea of like recreating a soul and what does that mean? I'm glad this is the one thing he's written that's won a Hugo. Like, this is for me, I think, the one that makes the most sense. But yeah, spoiler thoughts on Emperor's Soul that anyone wants to share that they feel like they can't get out in a non-spoiler way. Like it's a guys, right now it's amazing that my brain's staying on track because all I want to figure out is why Babel is ineligible for the Hugo. That's all I want to do.
I'm there with you because you said that, and I'm like,
there's no rhyme reason. Anyways, sorry.
It will be revealed in time. You just have to be patient.
I don't think it will be unless NPR picks up the story or something like that. They don't want to tell us. They have dragged their feet.
But I feel like you know.
I know that they cheated.
You just don't have confirmation.
They were cheaters. They were big fat cheaters. I don't even like that book. Anyways, so I think also I'm biased because for some reason the magic system on the Elantrian planet, how tied it is to symbols and writing, I don't know why, but I eat that shit up. Like, it's like my favorite thing. And
honestly, that's like one of the only things I remember about Elantris because I just didn't read that book at a good time for me. It's not bad. I just didn't read it at the best time. So I think I would really enjoy rereading it after reading this one and seeing all the tie-ins. But I think
the Elantrian magic system made more sense to me because it was all based on like their land and having like a base thing that they would build off of. This one just seems like she's doing whatever she wants, making some designs, doing some stuff. Somehow lines that are trapping parts of his personality and soul, but I'm like, but how?
Well, if you remember at the beginning of the short stories, they do mention that the languages and the magic changes based off the part of the land you're in. And we kind of saw that in Elantris with the Fjordan and the Elantrians having different languages that harness the language, that the magic based off their land architecture. So we're in a completely different part of the world. So there's a language there that encompasses the magic. And so she's writing a fancy desk from the past. Like, she's literally rewriting their history using that language that is tied to the magic because of the architecture, geography of the space. That's how I think it's.
It always It just cracks me up though because I had read Emperor's Soul, and then everybody was always talking about that Robert Jackson Bennett series, and I was like, did he just rip off Emperor's Soul, where like they rewrite the history of objects to make them do different things?
Oh, see that
I
one?
haven't read that yet, but
I don't read it either. I just always hear people describe it, and it sounds like Emperor's Soul. The
No, it's
magic.
very different
it's
in that.
different.
Well, I think the biggest differences are the idea of the cognitive plane does not exist in Foundry side. So in Foundry side, you're not telling an object it's something it's not. You're not changing its history per se. You're telling it it's in a specific state. It's very Newtonian, I guess is what I would say. Whereas this, it's like it's more about the history of an object, and I don't know. It feels very different to me.
I agree with that.
So, what was I going to say? Because something that I did notice this time, and I'm curious if it'll pay off later on in the Cosmere, because we have some things where the magic can travel between planets, and one of them is like the door. But another thing that I hadn't thought about is we have that soul stone that is apparently like an asteroid from space, which I didn't pick up on like my first read, but like reading it this time, it's like it's something that came from space. And I'm like, is that from this part of it? Is it something that can travel between planets? And because I guess the soul stone only matters in that it's really gentle to use. Like in theory, she could use anything based off what I read, but that was something where I'm like, that could be a fun. I wouldn't be surprised if we found soul stone in a different Mistborn series, or if we found it in like Roshar at some point and it was like used in a special way, because it seems to have a property that might be useful. But I don't know. That was something I was thinking about. And so she has her different soul selves and she can change into, and I'm going to talk about Lost Metal right now. I don't think it's spoilers for the big plot of the Lost Metal, but I'm going to talk about a moment with the character from Emperor's Soul shows up in Lost Metal doing something. And at one point she stamps herself, and when you stamp yourself, you can change your identity, and she stamps herself into an Elantrian. At the time of this, she doesn't have an Elantrian soul stamp, but there was one soul stamp that was almost Elantrian, where she had her beggar outfit that made her like bald and all splotchy.
Oh yeah.
So I wonder if she just updated that one, because she did use it in the novella, so we know she's not an Elantrian with that soul stamp. But yeah.
I like that idea. Continually updating her stamps.
Well, the idea of making
Right.
your whole soul stamp is also just such a fun little thought experiment.
Yeah.
I think what this reminded me of is I don't mind when Sanderson lets himself be in a softer, squishy magic space.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't let himself do it often, but I think when he did it here, because you can tell it's still within the bounds of what he's played with, but like we are purposely not explaining a bunch of stuff, because also like a part of what this character does is kind of art and intuition. Like there is a rhyme or reason to what she's doing, but she made a manual, but it would be really hard for someone else to recreate what she has done to, revamp this person. So also KD is here. I don't know if he's still here, but hi KD.
Yeah, I was cracking up at a second comment.
Brian did myself.
Oh, KD. Favorite Welsh booktuber.
Yes.
Okay. Any other Emperor's Soul thoughts? I could probably talk about it for like a century, but I know I like it the most out of everyone. So.
Well, I'm just not a heisty person in book form. I much prefer that in like movies and shows.
Neither am I, Roger. I hate heists in books. Like I'm telling you, there's
just something magical about Emperor's Soul for you.
I like heist stories, so I was all here for it.
I like a heist.
I also
I
don't
can
really
see
like
where it
isolated
might not
character
work, so.
stories, and this is just a character who's isolated the whole time, essentially. I don't know why I like it. I think I liked it because it was so short, so it was like a taste of something I like, because it's the length of a movie, right? Like if you consume this story at an average reading space, you're going to spend the length of a movie consuming it, which is about how long I have an attention span for this type of story. So maybe that's why it works. I never look at these constellations on the inside flap, but they're really pretty.
Oh, I should have gotten the hardcover.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you have the
Well,
little
when I
royal.
ordered this, the hardcover was out of stock, and I was too impatient.
You should
So-
never get the UK paperbacks.
Note to
That's my
self.
hottest take. They suck. I don't like
Well, yeah, but
You don't like the covers, or you just don't like the royal bound?
everything.
Oh.
Everything about it is unattractive to me. When I joined BookTube and everyone's like, oh my God, UK covers, I'm like, are we all consuming the same art right now? Because My cover of Warbreaker is so much prettier.
I don't think any cover of Warbreaker is pretty right now, but
I do like
other
the
than
UK
Warbreaker.
Warbreaker cover, but I like the American one too. But this was more out of I need it so I can read it for this live show and not.
I just wish there was more consistency in the US ones because I really like that old painting style of the original Mistborn trilogy, but like
Those
there's
are my
not
favorite.
that style for his other books.
The US hardback Mistborn are my favorite.
John, we know you're here. We appreciate you.
Jeez, 520.
Yeah, right. I don't actually like. Here's the thing. I don't think I actually like any of the hardbacks that much. I think they're fine. I just know I dislike the UK covers. I think that's more where I'm at than anything else. I think actually internationally speaking, Spain, India, like there are so many countries who have
Oh, the
Oh,
Chinese
yeah.
covers?
Oh, those were
Oh.
gorgeous.
covers. And
So
we're over
pretty.
here. I don't know what we're doing, but yeah. We don't really need to talk about the Hope of Elantris, right? Like that's just a.
We talked about it when we did Elantris.
It was there.
Yeah.
It was fine.
She's
I
pregnant.
kind of
Yeah.
forgot. I'm like, it is.
Yeah,
I do love that Jesse sounds like a 1920s like announcer. I need you to start doing like the Cora voice for the like.
That's what I was telling her. It's like your mic's
Trying.
like just it's doing a weird thing.
I don't know. I have no idea what it's doing.
No, it's. I mean, chances are there? It sounds like you have wires in your headphones. Like they physically send them to you, and there are these two wires probably that keep touching that shouldn't be touching.
Probably.
Yeah, and
Then
and
that's
that's why
bad.
it'll mute randomly and do
Then it's
nonsense.
bad.
Okay, so the Scadrian system, aka Mistborn. The first one, basically the first two were released into different gaming systems and are just things for people who buy those games. Therefore, I get that they're here so that people who are completionists can have them, but they really don't matter. But for the sake of our completionist brains, anyone have thoughts on the 11th medal?
I enjoyed it. I agree it's not necessary, but it was fun. But I also like Kelsier, so
Yeah, and I famously hate Kelsier.
and I just love this old man. Like it just cracks me up. So there's that.
There is art in this book too. I forget about that because I read some of this. on my
Oh, there
Kindle.
is.
Which
Yeah.
it's all
Well, I
black
did
and
it on
white.
audio this time, so I don't remember any
I
of
did.
the art.
I did too, Roger. I did the whole thing on audio.
Yeah.
I didn't do it on audio. I just like
Anyway.
I read it backwards because I needed to motivate myself. Oh, before we keep going, so maybe John can sleep. I think he wants to know each of our favorites in this collection. Roger, not John.
Probably Emperor's Soul, and then the one with the weird parrots.
6 of the Dusk.
There we go.
Stephanie.
I like Shadows for Silence and the Forests of Hell and Emperor's Soul.
Nice. Jesse.
Of only the ones that we read for this, right? We're not including Secret History because that one is my favorite. But other than Secret History, probably Emperor's Soul. And honestly, I kind of liked Allomancer Jack. I'm not gonna lie.
I like the footnotes of Allomancer Jack.
Because I listened to it though, because it was on audio. It is the footnotes that make it, and it's just funny listening to it. So it made me laugh.
I physically read the footnotes and it was irritating because you constantly have to like look down.
Oh yeah.
You should have gotten the
heard
ebook. If you have the ebook, you just tap it.
I know, but it's still interrupting your reading to like tap it. And it was not the footnotes, it was the amount of footnotes on one page that bothered me. Because I normally like the Chorus of Dragons footnotes are fantastic.
Well,
but
so for me,
like 5 on one page where you have to constantly like
I only read that one in my Kindle and it didn't bother me. But my Kindle is a Kindle Oasis, so maybe it's big enough that like it worked out. But I don't mind reading footnotes ever since because I was so bored with the actual text. And right now we're talking about Allomancer Jack and the Pits of Eltania, episodes 28 through 30.
I mean, the footnotes were entertaining themselves. I just didn't like the format of it, I think, physically. If I listened to it, I think it would have been better. But the story itself was just nah.
My favorite's the Emperor's Soul. I have the Emperor's Soul, and then my other two are Shadows for Silence and the Forest of Hell and Six of Dusk. The ones I made the thumbnail for. Those are my favorites. I can even say they're my favorites, including everything else in the collection. So they just are. Any other 11th Metal thoughts?
I mean, I'm with you. I don't love Kelsey, and I've always been confused about people that are like so head over heels with him. I'm like, but why?
I mean, like, I think what I dislike. Sorry, what were you gonna say, Jesse?
She says she likes him but doesn't love him, but she's down a well again.
Yeah, I agree. I like him. I don't love him. He's fun to read about to me.
I think the 11th Metal, it just so obviously is like this thought that doesn't exist well with everything else. Because like the person who reads the 11th Metal is then about to read an RPG book. So they're not going to just jump into Mistborn. And I haven't read Mistborn close enough to now to be like, oh, and this is like the seed that starts the Kelsier that we get in Mistborn. So it's like this little prelude of Kelsier. But I'm not about to just reread Mistborn. So it just feels like, I don't feel like cathartic at all when I read that. Then Allomancer Jack in the Pits of Eltania. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I think it does a good job of what it is. It's just like a pulpy, serialized drama that was in a magazine for Mistborn Era 2 with a different RPG book. So.
I think these two are probably my least favorite because I feel like they're so unnecessary and don't give me interesting information that like expands my understanding of anything.
I think in Allomancer Jack, there's like a slight expansion of like how Kulos are now working in Mistborn Era 2 and how they are made. But even then, it's like the Kulos are not the things I care about.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
So, because like, I mean, they are mentioned in Mistborn Era 2 and even people who have Kulos blood, and they're a little bluer and stuff like that. But I think that's really it. Okay.
It just made me laugh.
You're allowed to laugh, Jesse. You're allowed.
It just made me laugh. That was why I liked it.
Like I said, I did enjoy the footnotes. It actually made me want to read Chorus of Dragons. I'm like, man, I miss Dervishar. I want to read his sassy footnotes. All right, we already talked about Mistborn Secret History when we talked about the Lost Metal, which is alive, that Roger can add to the playlist, but is also on this channel if you want to go see that. But basically, secrets abound. There's always another secret, blah, blah, blah. White Sand. The only thing we need to know about White Sand in the Cosmere context is that the sand can tell you about investiture usage, right? That's about it. It changes colors. It's like this weird chromatography device.
It's there.
I have a question about because I have not read White Sand.
I have not read it either. I've only read the first volume of the graphic novel.
So, Chris, if that's the way you pronounce it, do we see them elsewhere? Or is it really only...
I don't remember their names. The female character in White Sand is the person writing the Arcanum Unbounded.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only person I know who's a world hopper from that world.
Okay, so that's where we've seen them is from.
And in her introduction to the Taldane system, she's like, and I haven't been home in forever because they're kind of isolated at the time of her writing this book.
Okay. But that's pretty much where we've...
It has cool sand.
It does.
It's tidally locked.
Yeah. I mean, I admit I was a little invested.
I mean, it's one of those things where the planet is almost split. There's a light side and a dark side, and the dark side, the sand doesn't get recharged in the same way. I've read the whole thing. I just don't remember it that well.
I'm just I'm interested in it, but I didn't like the experiment of the graphic novel, because I'm not really a big graphic novel person. I'd rather my pictures be moving than stationary. That's where I'm at. I love animated movies and TV and stuff like that. That's fine. Stationary pictures, not my favorite.
Speaking of which, we just watched Elemental last night. So cute.
I've seen it so many times with my kids.
I still need to watch that one. We're almost caught up on Doctor Who. That's what we were doing.
Well, I got the email that's finally on Disney Plus. So we did a little date night. We made some garlic parmesan crostini, some spaghetti, and watched Elemental.
I had spaghetti last night too.
No, we had ramen noodles. But my kids started watching One Piece, the English dub. So I am now apparently rewatching that in English now. And I'm like, why did I agree?
There you go.
Caught up.
So, but basically I also then heard they changed the art design for White Sand, and things got very messy in the White Sand release. So I decided to just wait
Gotcha.
for whatever officialness will happen, maybe within the next couple of years. So.
I appreciate what they were doing, including it. It was just weird to have a little graphic novel section just put in there.
Well, at the time of this release, they hadn't run into the stumbling blocks yet.
Yeah.
So,
I
like,
can understand that.
Yeah, so I think like they were trying to do a whole like completionist situation.
Fair.
Now we're in the Threnodite system, Shadows for Silence in the Forest of Hell, which is the planet referenced for the Sunlit Man, which we have discussed on Jesse's channel, Roger's channel. Can't remember which channel.
Somebody.
It was one of us.
If there's a playlist, it's in the playlist.
It's somewhere.
There's a playlist.
Yeah. But these, I don't know timeline wise where we are, but these are the people they're related to, and they have this weird relationship with when they die. Their souls don't go to the spirit plane the same way that other people's do. And it was written for the George R. R. Martin anthology of Dangerous Women. So that's why it's focused on a female character and Sanderson's way of making them quote unquote dangerous and stuff like that.
Ooh.
So, spoiler-free thoughts, then we can discuss any spoiler points you guys want to talk about. Roger?
I think it's a lot of fun, and it's always fun to me when Sanderson tries to do things that are a little bit creepier for him, because I just appreciate kind of horror elements in my fantasy sometimes. So I think it's a fun one, and it definitely was cool in context with the Sunlit Man, trying to be like, how did the ghosts get from there to there, and what are they doing?
Yeah,
Stephanie?
I agree with that. It was just a lot of fun, and I liked the horror elements in it. So
I agree. It was a lot of fun, and I thought it was cool because I hadn't read it before I read Sunlit Man. Like I had no idea.
Yeah,
And it was cool just kind of seeing it, and I was a little disappointed that they weren't like 3D printers, but it was cool just seeing that, like going back and being like, oh, okay. And yeah, I liked the more like horror-esque, like creepy elements to it.
yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, I forgot how much I like it feels like one of those fireside kind of stories, because it's like, I mean, it's funny because I think even in the acknowledgement section of this story, Sanderson, when George talked to him at some convention, be like, hey, do you write short stories? And Sanderson even admitted, I write long short stories because this is like a 50-page story, which borderline, I think that would be a novelette, which I still like, but it's a little long. A short story is usually 20 pages. And so, you know, even he knows it's kind of long, but I really do like when he is forced to be constrained to a small space, what he chooses to focus on and bring forward. I thought he made sure the setting was strong. I liked the narrative framing because it really set the tone of this is kind of like a ghost story sort of scenario, which we're in a ghost story scenario. And I remember just being like, I remember on my second read realizing the twist. But my first read, I was not prepared for the end of it, which I thought was really fun. I'm sure some people could predict what had happened at the end of the story. But for me, I thought that was very Edgar Allan Poe adjacent. Like I had fun with it in like that context of reading. And like in terms of Sanderson experimentation, I want him to experiment this way. Like I think this is more fun. Like have more, at least for me and my, you know, sensibilities. And I liked that it was, you know, like a complex mother-daughter relationship. They're trying to survive in a part of the world where like this and the next story, there's a lot of discussion of respect for your environment and how you coexist with it, which I feel like is a theme in a lot of Cosmere books because we have a lot of weird ecology. So you kind of have to learn with living with it. But especially when it's like a darker planet that's like kind of trying to kill you if you don't follow the rules sort of thing. I liked that. So, yeah. Any other spoiler-free thingies about this one? Okay. I just like that she trapped her abusive mom in a closet after she died. I'm just a big.
I love that.
I am a fan of that.
Also, this was the first story that really showed us how important silver is.
Yeah.
Like nowadays, we're like, yeah, silver. It's silver and aluminum, big metals. We really care about those. You know, we read Trust in the Emerald Sea. We know how important silver is, but like this was one of the first ones where it's like, oh, it actually has like some sort of negating properties, I guess. So yeah. All right, then the last one is the bird one. And these are the birds that they always call chickens in Roshar. And they're wrong. They're not chickens. They're these birds. I didn't know that
chicken
for like a million years.
ever. Same, because I was always picturing like
Chickens.
Yeah.
When you read the story, they're like parrots. Which
makes sense, because Sanderson has a parrot.
yeah, and I didn't know that when I first read the story, but
Me
then I saw
neither.
his live stream. I was like, oh, you really like birds.
I do not like birds.
This is an aside. I don't love birds. I don't let my cats outside because I don't want them to get hurt. I don't care if they hurt birds. That's not a problem for me. But I somehow have acquired in my circles people who not just love birds. They're like lifestyle. Like one of them works at an Audubon association. One of them, two of them can draw lifestyle birds all the time. When they went to my wedding in Colombia, they were all bird watching because Colombia has like the most diverse array of birds. And I'm just like, 3 people in my bridal party obsessed with birds. I could care less. I hate chickadees so much. Like,
there's a few birds I like. I don't like parrots, and like I don't like pet birds.
Yeah.
I got bit by my cousin's parrot as a kid. The pain of getting bit by a macaw. You never forget that. But I did tell my husband the other night, if anything, like I want to do falconry, because like just the idea of like showing up somewhere with your falcon on a glove.
have you read The Untethered Sky yet by Fonda Lee?
No, but
You
it's
need
on my
to.
list.
You need
Now,
to.
okay, again, it's a novella, so like I guess go in
I'm
with
okay with
appropriate expectations, but it's all about falconry.
Yeah, I love that. The only kind of bird I want to own is an owl or like a bird of prey.
I mean, an owl is a bird of prey. So like,
Or like crows. I like crows. I feed the crows in my yard.
Crows are smart, or is it the ravens that are smart? I thought it's the crows.
They're both smart. The crows will start to learn you, and then like if you feed them like peanuts, they will eventually start bringing you shiny things.
I just can't picture that kind of bird without the Resident Evil movies where they're eating like dead flesh and become like zombie birds, and then they have the creepy eyes.
They become your own gang of thieves. That's why they're a murder. It's a murder of crows.
But anyways, what is this one? Six
we're
of
off
Dusk.
topic.
Dusk. But let's switch it up. Reverse order. Jesse, spoiler-free opinions.
I liked it, despite my dislike of birds. It was a good time. I really liked the whole like, facing the fact that this world is changing. You're like, I kind of have to accept the fact that life as I know it is never going to be the same. And I liked that aspect of it because he's like, well, I gotta kind of come to grips with it.
All right, Stephanie.
I enjoyed it. I loved all the visuals, but I'm a very visual reader. Like, I know he didn't give a ton of description, but I thought it was cool to envision while you were reading it. I loved the chickens. So I thought it was fun.
And Roger.
I do like a hidden lore thingy where we're figuring out why the birds that come to this island or come from this island are so different from birds elsewhere. And I just always kind of eat that kind of stuff up. So, I mean, those are the parts that I tend to focus on because the world itself wasn't as fleshed out as he usually does. And it wasn't as different in terms of ecology and flora and fauna. It felt more easy to grasp. And so those are the parts that I kind of gravitated towards.
Yeah, similar to what I was talking about the last one. I really liked, I thought his sense of describing a place so you feel like you could be in it without being overly descriptive was done really well. I could really feel how I don't want to touch anything unless I have to. The sense of danger was very well portrayed in terms of the stakes. I mean, considering one of his bird companions just shows him all the ways he would die.
Well, I'm look how shocked they look. They're so
Which just reminds me, did you ever play the newer Tomb Raider games where if you fall off something, she gets really graphically dead? That's just what I picture every time that bird does anything, because she'll fall in the river and then it shows her slamming headfirst into the trunk of a tree and just spinning off, and you're like, that's what this bird does.
I mean, I really like Jesse was talking about. I like that not only was this character named because his parents had the foresight to know there's going to be a changing of the guard. Like the things cannot be sustained the same way as much as we would like them to be. And so you are the Dusk. So he wasn't even named conventionally, although it was still within the convention. And then we're in a moment where he directly has to interact with someone who is bringing said change, but also trying to make sure, okay, but what you're trying to do right now, it's very dangerous. It's a trap. Can we think before we change? And I really appreciated that approach.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated their dynamic. This was a story where kind of the whole it wasn't a Grump Sunshine dynamic, but we have these two very different personalities, and there's slowly respect being formed both ways, and that accidental "you're my trainee" sort of thing happening. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a really good dynamic we got to see. And even though I did remember the lore twist of this one, I remember my first time reading it being that is so clever. That is very clever how we've decided to give investiture to the birds. I don't know why, but that is very clever. So now we can open it up to spoilers for this story. If anyone has anything. I feel especially because I've had more critiques of newer Sanderson and his cultural world building and his thematic plays with different types of government. I feel he's gotten very stale on authoritarianism being the thing you have to do when you're in crisis. And I just feel he's gotten a little stale on certain themes. And this theme for colonialism, imperialism, and the fact that, when I first read this, we didn't have space travel yet. Obviously space travel was happening, but Sanderson was very hush-hush about space travel. But now we've read Tress and a whole bunch of other stuff. People are coming from other planets and it's the sky all the time. And here I'm oh, this is far future. And actually he says here, at the time of writing, this was the farthest future Cosmere book he had written or story. And I was just wow, yeah, there's this whole and we saw that in Sunlit Man. It's we have people coming to steal resources and knowledge and that type of imperialism. What does that kind of mean? And I liked the discussion here and the realization of that woman of they made it too easy. They want us to excel so they can take advantage. That was something I really liked in this story. Mm-hmm. I really appreciated that. And I liked that the worms were important. I don't know why, but I liked the worms.
I was not expecting that. So I enjoyed that twist.
Right? The first time you read that, you're oh man, worms.
But then it happens and it's oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's such a big thing that he has a bird that has such a unique gift and it's from the mainland. It's but they never get them on the mainland. Something about these islands, and it says mundane as just the food chain. Mm-hmm. So presumably there's a well underneath that island because it's only that one island. It's not any of the other little islands. Mm-hmm. It's just that one. So
I would like more set in this area.
I don't think he's going to.
I don't think he is either, but
I think he just wanted to have birds.
If it ever happened.
Because he has birds sprinkled throughout.
Yeah.
This was the main reason I wanted to reread this collection was for the birds, so that when I reread Stormlight, I can be you bird, what is your power? As someone who considers herself a pretty big Cosmere fan, there are a lot of things I miss and a lot of things I don't look up because I'm not chronically on the 17th shard or whatever. And I'm just wait, they weren't just chickens? I mean, I thought it was weird that they had chickens.
Right, but it's everything's weird. So whatever, we just roll with it.
Yeah.
No, they're magic parrots.
When you know me, it's not until somebody tells me something, what you had to tell me about the end of Life Ship, or when people told me about the person who crossed over in the more recent Stormlight, I was oh, okay. I didn't get that, but sure.
There's a crossover in Words of Radiance that I completely missed for so long. And to be fair, it's not meant to be obvious, and it makes sense when you read it with the lens, but it's also not oh, I'm such an idiot. It actually is meant to be subtle.
I didn't catch that one either for a while.
So that is this collection. I forgot to read the beginning of the Roshar world thing. Was there anything interesting in that before we got into Edge Dancer that we should know before we get into Way of Kings?
I didn't even read it because
I definitely reread Edge Dancer. I did, and I definitely reread Edge Dancer because I'm any excuse.
Well, I didn't read the intro. I was just saving it for when
I don't
we-
remember because I read it 2 months ago. So
Roger, stop being on time for your own read along. Get on our
Right?
level. Our level.
because I'm working with Way of Kings.
I was
We
good.
haven't- none of us
on
here
this one.
started Way of Kings. You need
I
to slow
know.
down.
Correct. I have not.
I haven't either.
I need
Actually,
to.
no, correction. I read the first prologue.
How long is the audio?
Oh,
Like
it's
47
long.
hours.
It's long. And it's Michael Kramer. Like,
And Kate Redding.
ugh.
I like Kate Redding.
I like her too.
But the
I don't-
nice thing about them is that after Wheel of Time, I am so good at bumping those hoes up to max speed.
I started this on
I have it right now. I'm
audio.
going to click borrow. 45 hours, by the way.
Yes.
I've clicked borrow. I have 21 days, so I need to finish it in 21 days.
There you
just
go.
it just showed up.
Oh, God.
I started this on audio because I was like, oh, I can listen to this while I'm working. And as soon as I started it, it was like Wheel of Time flashbacks. And I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Well, it was a lot more recent for you than it was for me and
Yeah.
Angela.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I am
But
not.
it was like, no.
No Wheel of Time for
But
me.
I like Kate
Yeah.
Redding. I really do. the two of them together, it was just Wheel of Time.
Their inability to discuss accents with each other is baffling.
Yes.
Absolutely. baffling. You live
Are they
together.
married?
They live together. And even if you don't want work and life, fine, schedule a meeting.
Yeah.
But they're not even self-consistent because like the voice changes on their own characters like 14 books in sometimes. You're like,
When Elaine became British, I wanted to scream.
Yes.
Book 13, British Elaine. Fine.
You are not convincing me to ever pick up Wheel of Time again after my time reading book 2.
I don't think you would like it. I think
I don't think so either.
Who will
if you
have
don't like
fun
book
with it.
2, like book 2 for the people who love Wheel of Time, that's in their top 5 usually.
That's true. It's in my bottom 5, but yeah.
It wasn't bad.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you didn't really, really like, that's what most people would consider like peak Wheel of Time, is like books 2 and probably 4 for a lot of people.
Nah,
I mean,
my
I
whole
think
collection
actually, Eye
went
of
to
the World
used
is usually
bookstore.
pretty good.
My whole collection went to the used bookstore.
Good.
I mean, book
I
2
mean,
is
I got
like
it
a
at the
litmus
library.
test. If you're not eating it up, goodbye.
I mean, I got it at a library sale for like a quarter a book for the hardback, so I was okay with that.
Ugh. Also, one of the authors who was also put as ineligible is tweeting about it. So maybe one day I'll get answers. Like, there's just so much tea. I'm like, what are
I
you
want
doing?
the tea.
I want to understand why you. First of all, the Hugos are not that important. So why are we doing this? Just like the number of people who nominate, it's less than like 5,000 people. Okay, like it's really not that big a deal. Like the top 3 books each got 800 nominations. Like it's not. Anyways, but no, I guess I don't know who this author is. Let's see, who was considered not eligible? Paul Weimer. I don't know what he writes though.
Why does that name sound familiar? But I have no.
No, I mean
idea
he
who
writes
it is.
books in science fiction, fantasy, presumably. So, but he's a fan writer. Sorry, this was for the best fan writer category. The next live show is on whose channel, Roger?
It'll be on Stephanie's channel for Way of Kings.
Exciting. And it'll be in like a month and a half when we get our lives together.
I only have a month and a half to get my life together. Crap.
I mean, at least the Way of Kings is nice to kind of just take
I
your
like Way
time
of
with.
Kings.
I didn't,
Yeah.
but
No, I
At
like
least it's
taking
a
my time
reread.
with Stormlight.
Yeah. I'm starting this one early. So
not as
yeah.
early as me since I read it in December.
not as early as you, but I'm not going to wait till like 2 days before.
You know.
Stephanie remembers that she got burnt out at Oathbringer and didn't read Rhythm of War for a year.
Yes.
We're not doing that this time.
No.
It's okay. I reread Oathbringer and Rhythm of War at the end of this past year, and now I'm backing up the Way of Kings.
Puta, you want to come say hi?
Yeah, but it's been like 4 years. I read Way of Kings in 2020. So I'm excited to get back to it.
Oh, so
It's been a long time
fluffy.
since I've reread it.
Baby!
This
He's
is
like,
art.
why are you doing this to me?
'Cause
Look,
he
I don't
yelled
even
at me.
think my cat's probably hiding because the puppy has decided that he's a chew toy sometimes.
Also, Puta wants to be here. Oh my god, stop it. Stop it.
But his facial expression, he's like,
Oh,
This is what he looks like all the time.
I know, it's adorable.
He's so floofy.
Just
He's all right.
Like Lucy has resting bitch face. Putao has like resting, like, why are you doing this face?
Well, especially now with the
He's
kids.
adorable.
He actually is asking that all the
yeah.
time. He's like,
Right.
it's like, they're needing me again. Why are they needing me?
But the photos are just adorable.
Right.
Because they
I'm
think
surprised that
that
Nami's not in my lap because she apparently still thinks she's a lap dog,
Aww.
and she's like over 30 pounds now, and she's only 6 months old.
So what are things that you guys are excited to try and like pick up on your reread of Stormlight this time?
Chickens.
I don't think we get them in Way of
Anything
Kings.
I know.
Well,
Way
there's
of
one.
Kings is the most just Roshar. It's not
Yeah.
until like Words of Radiance on that you start really seeing. I don't remember any Easter egg really that I noticed in Way of Kings.
Mm-mm. I don't remember a lot of Way of Kings because, like you, Stephanie, it's been so long since I've read it, and I do remember this one taking me a while to get into originally, and I was nervous because like I had loved everything else. I'm like, wow, this is taking me a minute to like really get into it. Like, what's wrong with me? And then once I was in, and then
Oh,
Sorry.
I see a cat. I see a cat being like given to you like Simba.
and
And
a
the
dog.
doggo.
Aww.
Nami, leave Deku alone.
But
He's not food.
Oh,
Cats are friends,
the
not.
cat is
Right.
get away from me.
Look, he gonna get her.
Oh,
there is a soundtrack for The Way of Kings, by the way.
really?
Like, it's really good. I kickstarted it way back in the day. It was like
Come say
2016.
hi.
Is
Come
it
say hi.
available or is it one where you
Oh.
have to purchase it?
Let me check check
Because
Spotify.
I was not aware of this.
It's very good. I think it's called Kaladin because they couldn't call it Way of Kings or something.
Oh.
Yeah, Kaladin, the original book. It's by the Black Piper. It is on Spotify, so presumably it's other places.
Okay, I think I've heard one of them.
It has some really good songs. So like there's a song, The Assassin in White, which is basically the second prologue, which is very good. Like it really captures the pacing of that scene. So like, I don't know. It's a good. I don't think you could like listen to it while you read because like I said, it really picks out like scenes and stuff, but in terms of like an immersion experience, it's good.
Okay.
What we consider a lapdog over here.
Aww.
35-pound catahoulas.
Oh, Donna was on one today. She likes to run around from us. She's like, chase me. And then I was doing yoga and she attacks my leg and down dog. And like, yoga's hard enough. I'm like trying to do a flow. And she's just like, literally, I have to go back into plank because she's attacking my leg. I'm like, oh, you need to move. She's like,
Just move.
anyway, she's only cuddly when I do yoga, which is not ideal. Not ideal.
But she's so cute.
Right?
She's adorable. I have beautiful cats. 10 out of 10 cats. They just thought they're also assholes. So
Isn't that most cats though?
not Kieran. Kieran boy is a sweetheart.
Not all of them, but like
Kieran's a
most
snuggle
cats.
bug.
I
He
think
just
that's just
loves his
animals.
Yeah.
Because both our cat and our dog are assholes.
Dogs, I don't think are intentional assholes though. I feel like cats, they plan it.
Agreed.
Bitch, when we went out in the snow, it was like -8 degrees up here, which never happens. He would sit knowing I can't lift him. And I'd be like, Butch, we need to go in. And he's just like, nope, I'm not looking at you. Intentionally being an asshole. Otherwise, 10 out of 10, super sweet.
I still
Yeah.
love that I thought Butch and your brother were the same thing for a really long time.
Yeah. I told my brother that and he thought that was hilarious.
That's amazing.
For context, Butch and Evie's dog Max look similar. They could be cousins.
Aw.
Stephanie has a brother named Max.
Yes.
So
But in the chats, I would always say my brother. Not like,
always, but I mean chances of
Right.
me.
but I hardly ever would be like Max. It's just
Yeah, oh yeah, you would always just say my brother's coming over.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say Max is coming over. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you would be like my brother Max. Like I wasn't
Oh,
that
no.
dumb, was I?
No.
It could happen, but
Good.
All right. Well, this was fun. Thanks for making me read this, Roger, because I honestly probably wouldn't have unless I was like, I guess, yeah, we're doing this.
It was fun.
It was. It had some good stuff in it.
Yeah.
I mean, we also skipped half of it. So.
I listened from cover to cover. Do I remember all of it? No.
Reading Secrets of Mistborn when you're not rereading Mistborn is hard because it's so intertwined to the plot of Mistborn. It's so hard. Someone got as far as book 7, Wheel of Time, the year it was published. After that, I said to myself, I'll read the next one if it's the conclusion. You know, though, book 7 is a really good resting point. So I think you made the right call because book 7 is low-key one of my favorites because it ends an arc, which is shockingly rare in that 14-book series. So there are more books in the Realm of the Elderlings, though, which I didn't realize until the other day.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Which, Roger, you're starting Tawny Man soonish?
Yeah, next month. With whatever it is. Is it Fool's something?
Fool's Errand.
Yeah. And then it's Golden Fool, and then it's Fool's Fate. That's the only one I can remember all three of them very well. Maybe Farseer too. Fitz and Fool can't remember for shit. The names of those books. I'm like, Assassins. Fool's Assassins. Assassin's Quest. No.
Fool's Quest.
No, I was like, Assassin's Quest is Farseer.
I know. The last trilogy, the naming conventions are absurd.
Yeah.
I think the last one's Assassin's Fate.
Yeah.
And the Rainwild is just Dragon something. Dragon Keeper, Dragon something.
Blood of the Dragon. Blood City Dragon. Dragons.
No idea. I have literally only read Assassin's Apprentice.
Well, you'll get there. You'll get us confused.
I'm getting there.
And I don't know why, but Live Ship I can remember. Ship of Magic, Mad Ship, Ship of Destiny. They're also not original, but I can remember those.
Maybe because they're so different from the rest of it, it's easy to remember it.
Well, also, like, the middle one, Mad Ship, it's very much about the ship in that book for a large part of it, so I'm like, I get it. Also, it's like a play on, well, who's the Mad Ship? But, like, we know who the Mad Ship is. But, and then Ship of Magic is like, introduction to Live Ship. Ship of Destiny, I don't know, that's just like a dumb fantasy name title, whatever, it's there. But it's the leftovers. So. All right, hope everyone has a good rest of their weekend. If it's cold and precipitous, that you are inside and warm and don't have to go places. If you do order takeout in inclement weather, be kind, tip extra.
Tip well.
Yes.
Like, you know, like that's why I cooked yesterday. The weather was bad here, and I'm like, I can't ask someone to bring me pizza in this. I would feel bad.
I do the same thing. I'm like, I can't. As a former food service employee myself.
It's like, or if I do, I'm going to pay way more than I want to in tip. So then I just. Yeah.
Well, these days I live literally across the street from pizza and all of those other things. So
that's how it was in Boston. So even when it was bad weather in Boston, I didn't feel as bad because I could get to stuff.
Granted, I'm in Florida, so like the weather's not, unless it's like hurricane.
Pucha looks so happy.
He is. Donna's over there, but she did her whole come up and run away thing. That's her new routine. Donna, you want to come here? Nope, she's just cleaning herself like a little duchess.
She's like, no, you'll photograph me later. It'll last longer.
Ah!
Literally what I do.
Yeah.
So, all right. Goodbye, everyone in the stream. And for everyone who watched the replay, list your favorite thing that you read in this collection down below. And we will see you on Stephanie's channel in the future.